Have you ever thought of swapping your beef burger for a mealworm patty? Well, me neither. But researchers from the Wageningen University in the Netherlands have. And they seem to think it's a great idea. That's because they've studied the environmental impacts of the mealworm production cycle. And in comparison to that of beef, pork, chicken and milk, mealworms could prove to be a real suitable, sustainable substitute for human protein consumption. And with a 70 to 80% rise in demand for protein predicted within the next 40 years, mealworms could become the meal of the future. The aim of this study was to determine if mealworms could be considered a more sustainable protein source and lower impact than more mainstream sources such as beef, chicken, milk and pork, and to see if mealworms could meet the growing demand for protein in our world in a more sustainable manner. In this study, 3 environmental indicators were used to determine the environmental impact of the mealworm production cycle. These were energy use, measured in megajoules, land use, measured in hectares, and global warming potential, measured in kilograms of CO2 equivalent. These values were attained by studying a functional mealworm production facility. These values are then compared to the values of beef, pork, chicken, and milk. These values were sourced from literature. The results of the study regarding energy use, greenhouse gas emissions, and land use were expressed as the amount needed in the respective units to produce 1 kilogram of edible protein. This was then done for the beef, pork, milk, and chicken. The results were then graphed accordingly. All of the graphs expressed the calculated mealworm values in green, the minimum values for beef, pork, chicken, and milk in blue, and the maximums in red. Graph 1 shows the small amount of land used by mealworms in comparison with the other proteins. Graph 2 shows mealworms having the lowest global warming potential. Graph 3 shows mealworms having a higher energy use than milk and chicken and a similar energy use to pork and beef. The research concluded that, although mealworms had a slightly higher energy use of production than chicken and milk, and a comparative energy use of production to that of pork and beef, that their relatively low greenhouse gas emissions and their very low land use meant that they should be considered the more sustainable edible protein source, especially as land is the biggest limiting factor in the expansion of agriculture. And therefore, mealworms should clearly be considered more widely and especially in meeting the growing demand of protein in a more sustainable manner.